Readers, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was not expecting Disney Pixar's Turning Red to hit me as hard as it did. Not only was it the umpteenth movie that I've seen that took place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, that was actively reminding me that I really need to visit Toronto, Ontario, Canada one of these days. No, seriously, I've never been to the city proper. The closest that I've ever gotten to it during family trips to Canada was like Chatham, Ontario, back when Wheels Inn existed. I'm probably saying that name wrong. Let me know if I'm saying it wrong in the comments. But I think it's safe to say that thanks to a wild combination of intriguingly unique characters, a wide array of diversity, and a story that tells a very unique perspective of life, culture, and upbringing in the era that it's based in that's also widely relatable to a lot of people, Turning Red has easily made its way to my top 5 list of favorite coming-of-age films. No, I said coming of age, not slice of life. There is a huge difference between the two. I'm like a dog when it comes to slice of life films. You got to put the pill in like a cube of cheese or something in order for me to eat it. It's not a genre that I can just watch by itself. I personally put it up there because as I was watching the movie, there were key portions of it that just resonated with me and my upbringing. And despite me not being the complete target demographic for it, I found the fact that it was still able to touch me the way that it did to be very impressive. And while the movie is currently being review bombed by insecure overprivileged white men who need every and anything to either focus on, involve, or have something to do with them in order for it to be deemed worth watching, I want to use this opportunity to show that despite me not being Chinese, Canadian, or a woman, that I found both solidarity and relatability with MeiMei's coming-of-age story in Turning Red within the first 20 minutes of the movie. And how I found it was in how her scenario, both leading up to her being able to transform into a red panda and learning to traverse it, eerily reflected how I was outed to my parents and how I came out to my father. Let's begin. Hey readers, Laron here, offering you analysis and perspective on your favorite bits of geek and pop culture media. If it wasn't obvious from the intro, this video will in fact contain spoilers for Disney and Pixar's Turning Red. It's currently available to stream on Disney+, so give it a watch before continuing here if you haven't seen it yet or don't want me to spoil pivotal points of it for you in this video. Other than that, if you end up liking what I'm putting down after this video is done, there's multiple ways so you can show me some love. If you want to help financially support the channel, you can join my Patreon. There are multiple tiers that range from $1 to $20 that give you access to things such as copy of my video scripts, early video releases, and discount codes to my merchandise store. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you'll get a heads up on whenever I post a new video. That's the syllabus. Now, on to the lesson. We're not so different, MeiMei and I. No, seriously, I did the math. I'm literally a year older than her. Due to it being a movie with a 13-year-old protagonist set in 2002, it's pretty much a story that is meant to reflect the childhoods of multiple millennials out there, especially minority millennials. Now, if you've seen my video essay on a Goofy movie, then this subject matter isn't really that new. There's always going to be a bit of a generational gap when it comes to fictional media that some who are younger both can and can't relate to because of either a lack of understanding the POV from the younger generation in question due to how differently they were brought up in comparison. Or the generation creating said media accidentally isolating the newer one because they want to tell the story they wanted to see when they were growing up. Turning Red is no exception to the rule here, considering the story is told from the perspective of a tween to teen Chinese-Canadian millennial during the early 2000s, and both co-written and directed by Dumi Shi, who herself is a Chinese-Canadian millennial. I was made aware that this disconnect in the movie with Zoomers and younger generations who watched the film was present, thanks to fellow reader Hopeful Gracidia encountering said individuals and tagging me in a thread that they wrote on Twitter about it after watching my Goofy Movie video essay. And while I'm pretty sure a lot of the stuff regarding the relationship MeiMei had with her mom isn't as relevant anymore because those of us who are parents are, and I hope, actively doing our best to not make our children feel the way that MeiMei did in the movie, I'd be lying if I said that what MeiMei endured with her mom didn't speak to my soul at all, or that I couldn't find any relatability in what she dealt with whatsoever. Because just like the event that triggered Mei's transformation and started her on the journey of finding herself, it all started with a boy. Mei's secondhand embarrassment she suffered when her mom found her notebook and decided to tell off the 17-year-old boy corrupting her daughter was very similar to when my mom stumbled upon some very erotic downloaded files I forgot to delete off the family computer after transferring them to my floppy disks when I was a freshman in high school. She reacted very much along the lines of Mei's mom, thinking that these impure, abominable thoughts could never have come from me and me alone. Because not only did she not raise me this way, but she knew this was unacceptable behavior as a child of God and would never seek it out on my own. It would have to have been planted in me by someone else. Someone at school, maybe. When, in actuality, despite actively being attracted to girls since consciousness, thoughts about boys were lingering in me since 3rd grade and only then started to turn into attraction. So, once again, if you've seen my Goofy Movie video essay, then you kinda already know how my mom reacted now that you know how much of a devoted Christian she was. Is. Repentance was involved, both to God and my mom. More on that later. Belts were involved, because of course. And me being gaslit to make it seem that I was responsible for showing enough weakness to allow the devil a bit of wiggle room in my otherwise divinely ordained life was involved. So when I saw how Mei handled the aftermath of the corner store incident, I saw myself. How I reacted when my mother discovered my quote-unquote weakness. How I beat myself up about it with her rhetoric to stay on the path, even though my mom did plenty of that beforehand. How MeiMei took it was like looking directly into a mirror, and that shit hit me hard.
You are her pride and joy, so act like it!
And I know what you're thinking. If MeiMei's mom was like your mom, does that mean MeiMei's dad was like your dad? Yes, actually. He wasn't as, yes, honey, as Mei's dad was in the movie. He definitely stood his ground and challenged my mom on a lot of things going on in the household growing up. But according to him, from our previous conversations, it was extremely hard for him to try and actually talk to me and parent me without my mom intervening. So, like Mei's dad, he had to find ways to do it where he wouldn't be interrupted. And also, like Mei's dad, he encouraged me to follow my heart first and foremost. My mom made sure that he was present when she found the evidence on the computer. That was how he first learned that I was into guys after questioning some of my retrospectively genuinely innocent behavior in the past during middle school. The situation was that I bought my best friend the Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro video game for Christmas for PS1 at full price when I was 13 in 8th grade. Instead, he told me to either return it or keep it for myself, because that's something his parents should buy him, not a friend, and it'll give off the wrong impression if I gave it to him. Fast forward 20 years later, and I discover that one of the love languages that I regularly distribute is gift giving. Who knew? But yeah, when my mom called my dad in to see what was on the family computer, she basically used him as an example to show me what men should and shouldn't experiment with. She showed him what I downloaded and asked him, "Did you ever experiment with stuff like this when you were his age?" As if to show me that what I decided to do wasn't normal for a teenage boy to do. And because he was mostly straight, he genuinely answered no, and my mom proceeded to discipline me. But once she was done, and I had some time to myself, he came to my room and suggested that I go to the store with him. During that ride, we talked, and I felt comfortable enough to tell him that I kind of feel the same way about boys as I do about girls. He apologized to me because he said some things in the past that were a bit homophobic and didn't realize what I was going through. And he let me know that he would always be in my corner and just wanted to see me happy. As you can imagine, when May's dad had that moment to talk with her without her mom intervening and gave her solid advice regarding doing what makes her happy, that took me back to not only that heart-to-heart I had with my dad, but every other time we had a chance to talk between the two of us afterwards, until he passed in 2012 of prostate cancer. It reminded me of every time I didn't feel comfortable telling my mom anything because of stuff like religion and familial expectations, but knowing that my dad would have judgment-free advice and experience to give me, loved me regardless of my decisions, and didn't make me feel ashamed of who I am. I both hate and love that this happened in order for me to gain this type of relationship with my father. The feelings are very complicated. Because in one hand, yes, the butterfly effect. If these chain of events didn't happen, then I wouldn't have grown as close with my father as I did. Or at least things would have happened a lot later when I had less time to do so. But on the other hand, I'm a firm believer that no one should ever have to endure that type of experience from their mother. Period. And believe me when I say that this was only the tip of the iceberg with her. I'm not exaggerating at all. Because while things got good with my dad and I, my mom was unrelenting. And it took watching another scene in Turning Red that reminded me of when shit really hit the fan between us, specifically toward the end of the movie. That's right, readers. Just like MeiMei with her mom, I too had a red panda fight. I know exactly which fight I had with my mom that resembled the one May had with hers at the stadium. It was the year before I moved out on my own. My parents had been divorced a bit over a year. I began shattering the whole Christianity had on me and started both accepting and embracing my sexuality, having come out to close friends but not afraid to come out to family if the situation occurred. My mom, however, didn't really appreciate that she couldn't gaslight me anymore, and that's when the microaggressions and the doubling down on guilt began. She even slapped me in the face a couple of times for disrespect that I never displayed. And while I did everything I could to be calm and respectful since I was still under her roof, because I was finally able to see what she was doing to me all those years and how all that trauma just compounded upon itself, there was part of me that just wanted to bite back every time. Then one night she started an argument bringing up all of the aforementioned things. That I wasn't going to church anymore, that this isn't how I raised you, that my friends were causing me to lose my way, that I disrespected her household by staying up late knowing good and damn well that the job I had at the time was a night shift. And this one was the kicker. My actions being a reflection of her, implying that everything that I do should be done in order to properly represent not myself, but her. And that was when I started putting things together. Not just about myself either, but how she handled her relationships with other people as well. That was when I snapped. That was when I yelled right back at her with all of the fury that she yelled at me with. And she did what you'd expect a black mother to do and play the "don't you talk back at me" at that tone of voice card, but I ripped that bitch right in half in front of her face. I was done. I called her out on everything, just as loud, just as passionate, just as furious. And it felt good. And she kicked me out. But only for one night, though, because she didn't want to lose me. So I spent the night at my dad's place after letting him know that I needed a place to stay for the night. And when I arrived, all he did was give me a look. I gave a nod, and he gave me that "I'm proud of you" nod back as he patted me on the back when I walked inside. She never apologized because why would she? Instead, she just doubled down by saying, "The devil is trying to drive us apart and I won't let him." And once I heard that, I realized that this wasn't going to change anytime soon. The sooner I was able to separate myself from her and live my life for me, the better. And I've been able to do so ever since I moved out on my own. I never would have thought I'd see a scene in an animated movie, a Pixar movie no less, that would remind me of my first big shout fight with my mom, until I saw Turning Red. Seeing Mei tell off her mom the way she did and return the anger, fury, and frustration she felt while dealing with everything the movie showed us she had to deal with, even years before the premise happened, was relieving, cathartic, and super relatable.
I'm 13! Deal with it!
Now, as my experiences have proven testament to, not everyone's relationship with a parent like MeiMei's is going to work out instantly like it did at the end of the movie. Some people are going to be able to talk and reconcile the trauma. Others are going to be like me and need space, establish boundaries, and take them in microdoses. But I would be doing this movie an absolute disservice if I didn't use my platform to show you all how impactful Turning Red is for people who aren't even its target demographic by sharing with y'all all the feels that this film made me feel. Both the good, the bad, and the furry. Oh, let's just be real here. You knew I was going to find a way to fit that in. Anyway, readers, your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below what you thought of Disney Pixar's Turning Red if you've seen it. Or if you feel like sharing with the rest of the class, if there was any portion of the film in particular that made you recall a moment in your childhood that's impacted you just as much as it did me. Whichever question you decide to answer, I'd love to know your thoughts. A huge shout out to my patrons, both big and small, for helping me make this channel possible. Make sure you check out the card at the end of the video to see if you want to join, or click the link to it or any of my affiliates in the description box below. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.